Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stacey West preview show. I'm your host, Jake Tonge. This is the second time we've recorded this preview for the MK Dons game. Hopefully, this one's going to go ahead. We're very lucky to be joined by Liam Connolly of the MK1 podcast. Liam, how are you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, Jake. How are you?
Yeah. It's good that we get to see each other. It's almost like a weekly thing, Liam.
Yeah, we should make it a weekly thing. It's come on, I need to reach for games every week. Yeah.
Anyway, just sort of, I know when we spoke previously, that video has not been aired, but for you're at university, you're sort of studying at the moment. How's sort of COVID and studying? How's that sort of weighing up for you?
Yeah, it's very annoying to say the least. Especially this is my final year. Kind of want to spend it down at Bournemouth with all my good mates I made there, but unfortunately I'm stuck in Leicestershire doing it in my bedroom. So yeah, not exactly ideal. But hey, it's 6 weeks or so left now, and then I'm out of it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Are you looking forward to potentially going back to Stadium MK and trying to get it filled for next season, or are you not too excited?
No, I can't wait to get back, of course. About filling it, I'm not sure about we'll be able to fill it. But no, it'd be great to go back, and looking forward to it.
And obviously, you've got a really good team at the minute to go back and watch. Obviously, Russell Martin's got you playing some really good stuff in recent weeks. I spoke to a Blackpool fan, Lee Charles, his name is, and he was sort of very not derogatory about the way that MK Dons play, sort of passing it around the back. Sort of you were 1-0 down to Blackpool at home, I believe, and then sort of played it around the back for the last 15 minutes. That was a Blackpool perspective. Obviously, tell us a bit more about the style of play that Russ has sort of introduced at MK.
Yeah, so throughout the whole season, we've been known as the possession champions of Europe. So out of the top European 5 leagues in the EFL, MK Dons average the third most possession out of all of the leagues. So only behind Barcelona and Manchester City. So yes, that does involve passing around the back a lot, but there's a purpose behind it. And to be honest, we saw a lot of it against Ipswich on Saturday. We just didn't score, which is very frustrating. We had many chances to score. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, some people don't get it. The Ipswich commentators, for example, I think it's Matt Mills, absolutely clueless in terms of the fact he can get on Sky Sports and commentate is a bit of a joke, to be honest. But yeah, he was sort of saying the same things as the Blackpool people were. And yeah, like I understand if you're not getting results and you just pass it around the back all the time, I understand it. But I watched this team 50 times this season at least. And you watch it twice. So it's all about, if we have the ball, there's less chance of the opposition scoring. So that's the whole point of having the possession and being, dominant of it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's part of the process, and that's part of what Russ Martin's trying to achieve at the club. And as you said, we're getting better and better at it. We've been a playoff team since the turn of the year. Of course, we're down in 13th, 14th at the moment, but we narrow it down from having our poor start. We are a playoff team.
Yeah.
So if we can continue that next season, hopefully have a good summer, keep some of our current players, which would be nice. I'm hoping we'll be in your position next season or better.
And Russ Martin then talks to me a little about him, because is he the third longest serving manager now that MK Dons have had?
I believe he's actually, yeah.
So, talk about, obviously he was linked with a numerous number of jobs over the course of the season. How he developed over the course of the year, and B, were you sort of ever worried that one of those clubs might have just poached him away from MK?
I wouldn't say, in terms of him leaving, not particularly. The clubs are interested in Bristol City are in a bit of a mess right now. Pompey, all due respect, are still in League One. And they've got a decent manager now in Cowley, who seems to be doing well for them, minus Saturday, of course. But no, I mean, this is Russ's first full season. It's still very early stages. Start of the season, we were having to defend the team quite heavily because we weren't getting results, and a lot of people were calling for certain people's heads and things like that. But as the year's gone on, we've gotten better. There's been a few little blips here and there, 2 or 3 game spells where we haven't really done too well and the team lacked a bit of confidence. But on the whole, it's been pretty impressive. As I mentioned regarding the points and where we are in the league, if you do it by certain times of the year. And yeah, I mean, obviously, he's very much about getting engaged with the fans. He obviously did the podcast with us, and he's done several other like fan forums with the other fans and season ticket holders in those areas of the stadium. So yeah, it's trying to get the MK way back in a sense, which is possession football that's attacking based and it's good to watch. And we've seen that this season, so it's nice to be able to go back to that hopefully in August, and we can support it physically rather than digitally.
Yeah. Obviously, MK had quite a good January transfer window. Harry Darling was a player that we spoke about last time we spoke, and Zach Jules as well was one that we also touched on. How the players that were brought into the football club over that period, how have they sort of settled in the first 10 games or so since that period?
Yeah, I mean, considering the time frame really well. As you mentioned, I think January had 14 player transactions. So the 6 incoming, 6 outgoings, and then 2 contract extensions. But yeah, considering the amount of time it's been really good transition. So as you mentioned, Harry Darling's been excellent. Matt O'Reilly, although he's been there since the summer, like training with the club, his transition to the first team playing games has been immense, and he's a really nice compliment to Scott Fraser. Zach Jules is still very much a work in progress. He's back in his left centre back role now, which is typically where he used to be, because Dean Livington's either been put to the bench or has played right centre back, which is what we saw Saturday. But yeah, Zach Jules has been good. Sometimes the fans have got a bit frustrated with him, but it's very much what we like at the start of the season in terms of trying to understand the play, getting used to it. But for us, that's what these games are for, because we're not really playing for anything at the moment. It's kind of just, yes, we want to win games, of course, but it has a purpose. Of course, Will Grigg, the big name out of all of them, I suppose. He's done okay. He started off really well. I think it was like 3 goals and 2 assists. Oh, 3 assists and 2 goals, sorry, in the first 4 or 5 games, which is terrific. But since then, hasn't really done too much. So, I mean, Russia spoke about wanting to bring Grigg back, which if it's cheap enough, I guess. But I'm not. The more I see him, the more I doubt that move, to be honest.
Yeah.
And of course, Charlie Brown is a youth project as well, who's hopefully going to see a bit more game time. And I'm hoping that he plays against you guys on Tuesday. Of course, former Ipswich player, who's a former Chelsea youth player as well. Terrific goal scoring record, and just needs a chance really. So hopefully he can get that in the next few games heading into next season.
Yeah, certainly sounds like an Anthony Scully sort of type player. Done quite well in the Premier League too, and then now he's sort of come to a League One team looking to sort of make his stamp. Scott Fraser, then obviously he's a player that you probably knew I was going to bring up. Really, he was sought after in the summer by Sunderland. The wage cap sort of came in. MK Dons pounced, managed to get a hold of him. How impressed have you been with him since his arrival down in MK?
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if he doesn't win Player of the Season. His first 6-7 months have been immense, really. We always say on our podcast that he's been our creative hub the whole year. Before we had the likes of Matt O'Reilly and people like that who were stepping up. Fraser did everything pretty much, box-to-box midfielder, was willing to put in tackles, create the goals, scored the goals. And of course, he had help with the likes of Cammy Jerome, for example. But yeah, he was the man. Past month or so, he's been a bit off the boil, which he was due, to be fair. He's played so well that it's bound to happen. So we're not really sure what's going on with him at the moment. Of course, there's going to be links of him moving away because it's Scott Fraser. He's just a really good footballer, and teams were interested in him in the summer, as you mentioned, and they'll be interested in him again. I imagine Sunderland will be knocking on the door if they go up, which is looking, well, maybe through the playoffs, maybe likely. We'll see. But yeah, he's a good player. And I'm sure, well, I'm hoping that he'll be able to show that to you guys on Tuesday. But recent form maybe suggests that he'll have a bit of an off day again.
Super. Well, that's what we quite like to hear, especially with our best player seems to be out as well. George Grant obviously been out for quite a while now, but what was I going to talk about? Obviously highlights and lowlights of the season. And obviously with 6 games left, where you guys probably have 7 or 8 maybe. What's been your sort of highlights and lowlights of the campaign so far?
Low lights is probably the start of the season. It was absolutely shocking. I mean, the team's very different since then, and that's probably why we're on this such a good run because there's not the same players. But yeah, it was kind of like the start of the season was kind of like having a 2.0 at the end of last season, which was similar players who weren't really fitting the system and just weren't very good, purely. And I still have gone to League Two now, like the likes of Bailey Cargill, who was consistently inconsistent, and he's shown that at League Two level as well. I suppose highlight has just been loving watching our team again. We haven't really had that in a good 3 or 4 seasons for me personally, because we had Paul Tisdale previously, who was, to be honest, not a very good manager in my opinion. He only just got out of League Two with the likes of Chuck Zanike and Reece Healy up front, so that's a little sort of picture of how he was as a manager. And before that, terrible managers. So yeah, it's been the first season in a long time where we've actually enjoyed our football. And that's why we're so keen to get back to support the boys, because we feel like we can make a real push for the top end of the league next season if we can get the recruitment right once again.
And Lincoln and MK have done quite a fair amount of business so far this season. Obviously, Conor McGrandles and Joe Walsh made the move over here in the summer, and then Regan Poole in the January window for an undisclosed fee. Just talk to us a little bit about all those three players and how they sort of did at MK Dons, and are you sort of glad to see them doing quite well at Lincoln?
Yeah, I'll start with Regan Poole. Yeah, I've always liked Regan. I was kind of always, I think I spoke to Gabe Sutton a few years ago about him potentially playing at right wing back or right back. And because, of course, previously he'd always played centre back, and that's kind of where he was at Manchester United and partly for us under Tisdale. But yeah, he's always possessed the attacking quality to play at right back for me. And it's nice to see him do well at not only for us there, but also you guys. So yeah, he's always been a player I've always quite liked, and it's nice to see him doing well at Lincoln and getting consistent starts. From what I understand, he's a bit more of a project for you guys, which is understandable. He's not really the finished product just yet, but he's still young, so no worries about there. Joe Walsh, probably one of my favourite MK players of recent years, just consistently very good. Never really puts a foot wrong when he's in the team. And luckily we got Warren O'Hora in, who has kind of been the similar player to Joe Walsh, who we replaced him with. But yeah, always have a soft spot for Joe Walsh. He's a very good player, so I'm not surprised to see him do well for you guys and get that new contract. And Conor McGrandles is an interesting one. For me, he was always a player who we asked too much of. We were asking him to, get back in the box, but also score goals and score assists at the same time. And for me, Connor has always been that player who can do one role really well, and not two or three. So I think with a full fit squad for you guys, with the likes of, say, Grant back, Connor can do his one role really well. But I noticed that I think he scored a few. Did he score a few guys at the weekend or get an assist or something?
He scored a few goals recently. He scored at Gillingham. He scored a few against Northampton. Definitely back in the goals as well. Obviously, all three of those players look like they're going to be set to start against MK Dons on Tuesday. Joe Walsh has just come back from an injury, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with. That he's quite injury prone as a player. I just want to go back to the start of the season. Then, obviously, MK1, Lincoln City 2 at Stadium MK. Really good day for us. Not probably so good for you.
Yeah, the referee dominated that one, didn't he? Let's be honest. Of course, the penalty that you guys got for your first goal was not a penalty, and then you could argue that the goal we scored wasn't a goal. It was apparently offside. I mean, for me, it was hard to tell. Hey ho. I mean, for us, it wasn't the best day in the world. Of course, we dominated the ball as we typically do, and the two goals that we conceded were both Bailey Cargill's fault, to be honest. Of course, he gets away penalties for the first goal, and then the second one, he kind of pretends to get swiped in the face, and then, of course, the Lincoln player goes on to score the goal. So yeah, wasn't the greatest day, to be honest. It was kind of the emulated our start of our season. Having loads of the ball, not doing too much with it, and losing games. So hopefully we can do a bit more with the ball in terms of actually scoring some goals on Tuesday night and making the most of opportunities.
I know you've already spoke to Gaz, the founder of the Stacey West, for your podcast. What has he sort of said to you about what to expect from Lincoln on Tuesday night?
Pretty much the same from the first game, to be fair. Obviously, you've got a lot of attacking talent that are quite young and fast paced, and Morgan Rogers, Brendan Johnson, and Callum Morton, of course, who is a player we're all pretty fond with on our podcast. So yeah, it'd be pretty much the same. And of course, you got workhorses like Colin in the middle and Eden, who both pretty quick players, pretty energetic players. So yeah, it's gonna be quite a feisty game, but it always has been between us the past few years. Kind of played each other quite a fair bit, considering we both came up from League Two and things like that. So yeah, I think it'll be very similar to the last game, but hopefully a different result from our perspective.
And how are you expecting MK to sort of line up? Obviously, you play three at the back with wing backs with Laird, and I can't remember, is it Sorinola at left wing back?
It has been, yeah.
And are you expecting MK to sort of come and to Central Bank and play the way that they've been playing, regardless of where we are in the division?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's one thing Russ Martin won't do is change his philosophies and his plan A. He'll do a plan A 2.0, but he'll never revert to a plan B. So yeah, I can run you through starting 11. So it'll probably be Fisher in goal as always. It's just part of the furniture now. Back three, Warren O'Hara is out for the season, unfortunately. Apparently he's been struggling with an injury for quite a while, and he was on crutches earlier in the week, so that's him done. So it'll be Dean Lewington, I imagine, at right centre back. He played there against Ipswich and played well. Ipswich didn't have a shot on target the whole game, so that kind of justifies for me starting Lewington, Harry Darling, and Zach Jules as the back three.
Yeah.
Ever-present Ethan Laird, right wing back, really attacking, probably one of the better players, to be honest, and has really grown since joining from Man United. Left wing back, probably Dan Harvey. Last two games played really well. Taking this opportunity because Sorinola's still got some contract issues. He can leave in the summer if he wants to, of course. There's a contract on the table for him, so that's an open book at the moment. So Dan Harvey's come in and taken the opportunity well. Midfield four will be Seven and McEachran as the pivots. Both played really well. Both controlled the game excellently. And Josh has been really good considering he's had not too much game time recently. Front of them will be O'Reilly and Fraser. The ever-presence really behind the striker. Both really technical, both really creative. And O'Reilly should have scored a couple against Ipswich, and Fraser will want to do well after a pretty barren spell of performances, quite frankly. And then up front, I've gone Charlie Brown. It could be any one of Jerome, Grigg, or Brown, to be honest. But I want to see Charlie get a chance. He deserves it, quite frankly. And he's the only contracted striker at the club heading into next season at the moment. So he needs to have a few games at the very least to try and prove his worth and battle for next season.
And are you confident about coming to Central Bank and getting a result? Obviously, you've seen the likes of Rochdale, Gillingham, Fleetwood, Blackpool left with a point on yesterday as we record. Are you sort of licking your lips a little bit at coming to Lincoln and to receive a bit of a wounded animal?
I mean, I'm confident of winning, sure. But that's only because of how we played on Saturday. I do think Lincoln will finish in the playoffs. I've looked at their schedule. It doesn't seem too strenuous. There's a few games. Peterborough and Hull, of course, they're going to be two games that you're going to struggle in, I think. Those two, for me, have always been the top two. And I think I've had Hull to win the league for months and months now. I think they're just the best team in the league by a country mile. Outside of that, I wouldn't play any teams you got to play scare me. But yeah, focusing back on Tuesday, I've gone 2-0 Dons. I just think, I think we'll carry on our performance. We've been a bit frustrated we didn't win that game. We should have won it fairly comfortably. So I'm hoping that they take that frustration into go to Central Bank and take the 3 points back to Milton Keynes.
Oh, he's very confident, isn't he? He's very confident. Let's hope that comes to bite you back on the proverbial. Anyway, thank you much for coming on, Liam. Massive credit. I know we've done this sort of last minute as well as we did last time, but where can Lincoln fans sort of hear Gaz's take on the game on Tuesday, and also your you three and your podcast?
Yeah, so it's the MK1 podcast. As you mentioned, Gaz came on and did an opposition overview for us. So that'll be part 2 of the next episode, which will be out Monday morning. And if you search at MK1 podcast on Twitter or just search MK1 podcast on your preferred podcast platform, we'll be there.
Brilliant. As I say, thank you much for coming on, Liam. Ever insightful. And thank you everybody else for watching. We'll see you later in the week.